Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and WFHR.com. We also welcome our friends from RCCA Media who are here, and we'll be talking with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. But, of course, the big news in our community is a very tragic story, and moments ago we received the following news release from the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. I'm going to read you the news release right now. It's from Lieutenant Brian Kriskowski of the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. He says that on April 27th, that's today at 2:13 in the morning, Wisconsin Rapids Police and the Rapids Fire Department paramedics responded to a residence in the 400 block of 11th Street South in Wisconsin Rapids to check on a reported distraught person. Officers arrived and noticed a strong odor of natural gas when entering the residence. Upon searching the residence, officers located 2 deceased children and 1 deceased male. It appears all 3 victims suffered gunshot injuries in what appears to be a double homicide-suicide. The investigation continues at this time. Agencies assisting the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department with the investigation are the Wisconsin Department of Justice Division of Criminal Investigations, the Wisconsin Crime Lab, Wisconsin State Patrol, and the Wood County Coroner's Office. There will be more information released at a later time. The names of the victims will not be given out at this time, and Lieutenant Kriskowski told us there are no plans right now for a news conference. But that's the latest, and we'll keep you posted on this breaking news story as more information becomes available. In the meantime, keep prayers and your thoughts for those victims. With that, it's time to visit with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. Difficult way to begin your day.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to those families.
Okay, so, well, let's get, life goes on, that's something that blows me away. But let's talk about the Wood County Board, and it's getting to be that time of the year again. Where did you want to begin? Road construction, parks opening?
Parks opening, road construction, and mosquito season.
Please.
All 3
No, they're going to freeze us tonight.
Coming at us, Carl. Well, we have some major road projects that'll be starting here very shortly, or have started here recently. That was part of the bonding issues that we've put forward the last couple of years to bring the roads up to par in Wood County. And right now, there's about a 4-mile piece of County Double E, 2 miles west of County Trunk A and 2 miles east of County Trunk A. That's the first project, and that's going to be beginning here very shortly, at least the paving part of that. And then after that, County Trunk H, we're doing 4 miles of that this summer. So that's a lot of reconstruction above and beyond the typical maintenance work that we do. And that was part of a project to make sure that we keep those roads in safe driving condition, and in some case upgrade those roads to handle today's traffic and heavier vehicles.
Okay. How many projects will be happening overall this year?
That's a good question. I wish I could have had all of them in front of me. I think last year we did about 4 or 5 of them. I assume that this year we're probably somewhere in the same vicinity.
Okay. I would imagine, too, just like with the city, it's when contractors are available, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would imagine they like to do a group of projects that are all in the same geographic vicinity when they're doing this work.
Yeah, to some extent, especially if there's other work involved. But, as a highway department on those county highways, we do the paving.
Okay, you do the paving.
So we kind of set the schedule. To some extent, we're more weather dependent than we are on anybody else. But, we'll get going on these projects. And then there's always the unforeseen. What am I going to run into when I excavate? And that's always a concern.
Do you have that built into contingency? That could be
absolutely.
Because you're right. Because like last year, the city on one of their projects, they dug up the ground and they found some really old sewers. So all of a sudden, you got to do some sewer work that you weren't planning for.
Yeah, we're hoping we don't have that. We don't have a lot of infrastructure out in the country, but there are unforeseen circumstances always. And then the other thing, obviously, that is of interest usually to all of the residents of Wood County, no matter where you live, is the campground's opening this weekend and the park. So the 29th, we'll have those open. We have camping at Southwood County Park out at Lake Wazeecha, out in Dexterville, and at North Park. And We've made constant improvements to those campgrounds, upgrades in electrical, sewer and water, additional camping pads for larger vehicles, and I think we're set and ready to go.
Okay. What about, are there reservations available? Or because some people are going, oh man, I'm too late. Or
There are, and I kind of reviewed this yesterday real quickly. Campsites run in the neighborhood of about $16 a day for non-electrified sites, up to the mid-20s for those with electric and water and sewer. There's daily rates. We also have 5-day rates that are really economical. We do have an online reservation system, and they take those reservations online, I believe, up to 48 hours prior to the actual use of the site. And I believe that's the timeline. Double check that with the Parks Department. 421-8422. But you can double check that. But we always keep a couple sites open for those last minute residents that are trying to get into a park. But generally speaking, our online reservation system has been a tremendous success, and they are heavily utilized.
Okay. So go to that website and check on it. I know one park that's going to be very, very busy this year.
And obviously, you're referring to South Park.
Yes, because of
State Water Ski Show Tournament, and followed by the World Water Ski Show Tournament.
So if you're thinking of those, you're probably out of luck, I would think, for those.
I know on the state weekend, those are already reserved. Those are gone. The first day available. The World one, I'm not sure if those are completely taken yet, but don't wait if you're interested.
Okay. The other big thing, talking about traveling and moving, River Block building, and the transition is happening there. Can you give us an update? What's happening at the River Block building? How's that transition working out?
We are in the process. A lot of moving parts. We will see the relocation of some departments within the courthouse that were facilitated by some of the aging facilities there and some of the needs that precipitated. And then we have those departments that are located around the county, in many cases moving into the River Block building. The health department, the human services department, we will have those all housed under one roof at some point. We are at the process where most of the architectural drawings are completed. We're in the process of retaining a construction manager for that project, and then we will start with the build out there and then move in. And hopefully early fall, certainly by the end of the year, we'll have everybody moved into that facility. That's a fairly large undertaking as we move somewhere between 180 and 200 employees into that building. Okay.
Do you anticipate having to do a lot of remodeling of that structure to fit the county's needs?
Yes. From an infrastructure standpoint, somewhat, because today's, with the need for fiber, computers and some of that's going to happen. Some renovation to the HVAC systems. Generally speaking, the offices are going to pretty much stay intact as they were for those of you who worked in that building before. There will be, movable cubicles and walls. That'll change a little bit. Addition of some bathrooms and some handicap accessible areas will be created. But there's significant remodeling.
Okay. Have you decided what floors will house what offices and how you're going to configure things? So I know you and I have talked about that in the past. You want to make it so if someone has business with 3 different departments, they can just go to that building and do their business and have it done.
Yeah, generally speaking, if you're dealing with anything that's a non-constitutional office, not the treasurer's office, not the clerk's office or the clerk of courts, register of deeds, or sheriff's department. If you're not dealing with those, generally those offices will be located in the River Block building. So that would be anything human services deals with, anything the health department deals with, and then there are some where it hasn't been decided for sure, but an example might be the Veterans Service Office, the Land Conservation Office, the Parks Department. Those will probably be located in that building. We're still trying to ascertain exactly where in that building. Plans change from time to time as we find more effective ways to complete that remodeling. And by next month, I'll be able to tell you who goes on what floor and exactly where they're going.
Okay, and hopefully, I'm assuming you aren't going to have any surprises come up.
You hope not. Those are the contingencies you build in. But I can tell you this: we could have, generally based on the purchase price, 10 times that amount in surprises and still be dollars way ahead from where we would be had we constructed a new building, which was a need that we identified 4 or 5 years ago already. So this was just an opportune time, an opportunity that we did not see coming. and it's going to really benefit the taxpayers of Wood County at the end of the day.
If you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, welcome. We're visiting with Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml. And once the transition to this new facility is over with, how will it affect other operations in the county, and what's going to be happening with stuff in the courthouse, for instance, and other facilities that you've been using, or will you be shutting them down?
Nothing will shut down, and that that's part of the difficulty in doing these types of projects. We are emergency services.
Right.
We're the last line of defense in many cases, so everything has to be operational all the time. A great, for instance, here is we have some water problems and issues in the lowest level of the courthouse. And when we took on joint dispatch a number of years ago and took that operation over from the cities, both in Marshfield and Wisconsin Rapids, Nakusa, and those areas, and brought it all under one roof, we said we were going to temporarily house them in the basement of the courthouse. And we have temporarily housed them there for between 10 and 12 years. So they've been temporarily housed for quite some while in cramped quarters. Because of some of those issues with cooling and with water and dampness, the IT department and the dispatch center are going to move to the second floor. That's etched in stone. That's going to happen. But we have to be operational every minute of every day while that happens. It's got to be to the point where everything gets moved, everything gets tested, and then at some point we flip a switch. We will locate IT and dispatch together because of the need for that computer support, and dispatch obviously is dependent on everything that runs out of our systems department, and so is emergency management to some extent. So those will all happen at once. Right now it looks as though the clerk's office, the county clerk's office, is going to move down to the first floor. So when you walk in the courthouse, the first thing you walk into is the clerk's office.
That makes sense. That's one of the most used offices by the general public in Wood County.
It is, and that facilitated that happening. So I think we become more effective, more efficient. Our employees have been, cooperative in the process. Nobody likes being dislocated. Mm-hmm. Typically, people become very comfortable where they are. Change is never easy, but had we put up a new building or had we occupied one that already existed and not demolished one right on the riverfront and then landfilled that, change was inevitable. It's going to happen. And not everybody might be happy day one, but at the end of the day, we will serve the public better.
Okay. I can relate to what the folks in dispatch may be going when you say you got to keep it running and still do the move. That's like when we moved this radio station from the old Tribune building to here. I was part of that, and I remember doing, actually, as they were breaking down the newsroom, doing a last newscast from the old Tribune building and working on a breaking story as they're tearing apart everything and moving it over here. And, and it's just like you said, at some point you go, okay, we're flipping the switch and everything moves here.
Yeah, it's difficult. And you hope when you flip that switch, everything works.
That's right.
Even though
exactly.
You tested it, that's not always the case. And that's where, we end up with egg on our face, and we certainly try not to have that happen. When you asked me a minute ago, are we sure where everybody's going? The answer is no. I don't even know if or where my office is going. To give you an example, you think you might have input into where that goes to, but I've basically looked at the recommendations of the architects and people who are experts in that area, and realistically, where I would like to be located is somewhat irrelevant as long as somebody can find me.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it from a general philosophy standpoint about how we are going to allocate county resources in the downtown between the facilities the county has. Has there been these services or offices should generally be in the river block and this should be in the courthouse. Is there a general consensus on that?
Yeah, and that would go back to what I touched on briefly with the constitutional offices, stay in the courthouse for the most part, or those that are absolutely I'll give you an example. Planning and Zoning Department works very closely with the Register of Deeds office. The Register of Deeds office has to stay in the courthouse, so Planning and Zoning probably stays there. If you use any of the services in the county through, whether it be through our health department, our WIC programs, our FSET programs, if you're in those, you know what those are, but they're basically the ones that would have previously been referred to as social services. Right. The health department. We're going to have one-stop shopping for you. Before you might have gone to the property over on 12th Street. You may have gone to the Centralia Center. You might have been over at Riverview Hospital or Spirus now. All of those will be under one roof. And most of the people who use one of those services use multiple services. Very few people would come in and only go to one office. So hopefully all of those offices will be located in that building, and you'll be able to go from one floor to the next, get all your business taken care of, and move on without having to hopscotch around town.
Okay. And that will make things, like you said, more efficient and better for the customers of Wood County.
That was the hope at the end of the day. And then a huge cost to businesses is when we have to move employees throughout the day from facility to facility, because that's lost time work, and we lose productivity. Mm-hmm. So anytime we can increase that efficiency, and that's a hard one to put your arms around. I can tell you it's going to cost $2 million to buy something or to build it out or to get it done. It's pretty hard to ascertain exactly what we're going to save in time and money, but I know that will occur. It's very much like a wellness program. I can tell you that our health insurance premiums in the county have not gone up very much in the last 5 or 6 years. And I know we instituted a wellness program about that. Right. I can't tell you exactly how much that the wellness program was responsible for, but I can tell you without wellness programs, we've seen astronomical increases in health insurance costs across the state.
Okay. Well, another thing that's affecting not just Wood County, but counties across the state are the changes happening with the University of Wisconsin Extension Service that are being planned because of budget cuts and rearrangements at the state level. How is it going to affect Wood County?
There will hopefully a better delivery of service at the end of the day, but there will certainly be an effect felt in every county across the state. In today's world where we can do things digitally, you can Skype somebody, you can get a hold of somebody, we can do video conferencing. We have experts located around the state that aren't necessarily located in our courthouse that we will have access to. As they regionalize service, and the one part of this I can tell you is absolutely etched in stone, is that there's a funding cut to UW colleges and extension. That's done. That was done at the state level, and now we have to adapt. We had a program that was in place for about 100 years. It hadn't changed greatly. That's going to change now. At the county level, though, I don't think anybody's going to see, if you walked in the door, a real reduction in service. You might see a reduction in staff in different places and where people sit as they regionalize this. But at the end of the day, I think you'll find it to be, as an effective program as it once was. In the old days, I'm not trying to minimize what they do, but one of the things people use extension for, obviously, is identification of plants.
Right.
Or plants. You used to walk in and say, here's a leaf or here's a stem, what is it? Nowadays, you can take a picture of it, you can digitally send that image to somebody who is actually a plant expert, a biologist, somebody who can identify what it is, get the information back to you in probably a quicker manner than you could have if you walked in the door. So, we have those efficiencies that come into play. Again, anytime you have reorganization, there's fear. The one thing I heard, I had a long meeting about a week ago with Chancellor Sandine. She talked to a small group of us for probably at least an hour. She said that service delivery will remain the same. And the one thing she had feedback from around the state is 4-H can't change. And
well, you have a very good 4-H program.
We have a very good 4-H program, and she guaranteed us that is not what will change. So those will be in place, be funded, and at the end of the day, I think you'll find as an efficient, if not more efficient, delivery of service.
Okay. The other aspect of that in our county and all counties in Wisconsin is the agricultural component, the local ag agent that meets with folks and stuff. How is that going to, and I'm sure the farm producers, and you might have heard from the agribusiness community, what their concerns about that. What can you tell them?
There are, and as they regionalize this, you might not have somebody sitting in your office who has a broad spectrum of knowledge, but it's going to increase our availability of expertise in every area.
Okay.
In other words, if we had somebody, again, this is speculation, but if you have somebody in Wapaka County who is an expert in a specific area in regard to farming or land conservation, we can pull those resources now, and then maybe they need our person who's an expert in a different area and use that resource in that area instead of compartmentalizing, what we had before. At the end of the day, proof is in the pudding. We kind of see how it plays out. But in talking to Chancellor Sandine and some conversations and presentations by Richard Clemmie, the dean, I think at the end of the day, everybody will be pleased.
Okay. Well, it sounds to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the technology revolution that is happening is bound to affect the delivery of services at various governmental levels, whether it be Wood County the UW Extension Office, what have you. We're going to make use of technology. If we can Skype a major expert on cranberries from Madison and say fill the PAC with cranberry producers, we're going to make use of that.
And that's the thought process. And at the end of the day, I obviously hope that works. This was not, by the way, these cuts were not driven by nor facilitated by counties. In fact, some of the counties across the state have greatly objected
to
those changes. But there was a need, apparently, to cut funding at the state level. When that was done, then we need to adapt. We would love to be the regional center for extension as it moves forward. I'm not sure how that will play out. I'm sure that every county involved in that regionalization will want to be the hub of those services, but those services there will still be offices in the courthouse, a place to go, or maybe not the courthouse, maybe the River Black building.
Okay, well, here's something. You just brought up something, and Wisconsin Rapids is marketing itself as having some of the most advanced technology of any community of this size, not only in the state, but in the country. There was an audit that came in and said, holy cow, you guys, you can do almost anything with the internet. I would think this would be, because of the infrastructure that's in place, an attractive location for such regionalization.
It absolutely benefits us. It facilitates those types of moves to our area. At the end of the day, on these types of moves, they obviously look at those capabilities, and then they probably look at usage. Mm-hmm. The farming component, the agriculture component might be part of that. Where does most of the agriculture occur? I guess from the counties, as they're looking at the way they'd regionalize, we're somewhat in the middle of that geographic location, I understand, although I don't know exactly who those are. But, I'd heard, Marathon, I think Portage, Clark. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we're considered in that mix. Our UW Extension office is fabulous out of the courthouse. Peter Manley and staff there are as good as you get. In fact, kind of a funny aside, I tell people all the time, all of us at home, anybody listening to the radio, know somebody who thinks they know everything. In fact, probably know a couple people like that and usually can't get away from them. I actually do know somebody who knows everything. His name is Peter Manley.
Yes, we've had him on the air here many times.
He's amazing. I mean, I can go in the morning and have a great presentation on some aspect of agriculture. In the afternoon, he's doing something on housing and insulation and weatherization. Later in the day, he's talking about something to do with, home economics. The guy's fantastic, and we're lucky to have Peter and staff here.
Okay. Quickly, before I let you go, because of your role this year with the heading of all the county boards association, I'm sure as you get farther, whenever you do these kind of regionalizations or efficiencies, the farther you get away from Madison, the bigger the fear, because they go, we always seem to get left out. And folks in central and northern Wisconsin are going, hey, is everything going to end up down in the more populous parts of the state? How do you allay those fears?
Well, that is a fear always. Because just by virtue of population, they have more votes in the legislature. The Counties Association, though, the mantra is, if it isn't good for all 72 counties, we don't advocate for it. And we have one of the strongest lobbying efforts in Madison, not just because we have people down there, but because our argument usually makes sense. And we have the ability to get into the offices of those decision makers and lobby for those causes. And because of that, I think that we have a very strong voice across the state. When you have 72 counties banding together with a particular issue, typically you get listened to some extent. And that is, one of the ones that recently really comes to mind is shoreland zoning. We had a number of changes that came into place which took away local control. And one of the things the Counties Association pushes always is more local control. Because the further you get from the center of power, the less you can react to the needs of your citizens in a timely manner. The author of the shoreland zoning legislation was on board with some of the changes to it. That just shows me first of all, that shows me a really good legislator. Somebody who's willing to say, maybe we did this, if not hastily, without looking at all the moving pieces. Mm-hmm. And it takes a really big person to step back and fix it. And that's always been my take on our board in Wood County. Will we make mistakes? Yes, we will. But if you continue to make the same mistake and you don't correct it, that becomes, lack of intelligence, or to put it mildly, a stupid decision.
Right. Okay. Well, it's always a very interesting discussion, and I look forward to our next talk next month.
I'm always looking forward to it.
Okay, you take
Thanks,
care.
Carl.
You have yourself a good weekend. And that's Wood County Board Chairman Lance Pliml with his monthly report here on the Morning Magazine. And we also thank our friends at RCCA Media for being here today. And the Morning Magazine, as always, is brought to you on AM 1320 and WFHR.com by Comfort Air.